بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي من ما بێستونم لە کەلارەوە هاتووم ئەمڕۆ ڕاستێکی شتێکم حازر کردبوو زۆر وەختان ناگرم ئەوە 5 دقە 6 دقەیەکە باسی لەو ئەزمموی خۆمەکەم لەو قوتابخانە دۆڵتی کە تیا خوێندومە بە خەلەلەکانی ئەو قوتابخانەیە بەس ڕاستێکی من عادەتەن لە ئینگلیزیا بەخۆترم قسە بکەم و ئەدەبیاتم باشتریش بۆم دێ بۆیە بە ئینگلیزیەکەی ئەڵێم هیوادارم تێبگەن بە حکمی عوزویشم قبولکەن بەس ماسەبیرەمان فەرمویان یعنی ئەمانە زۆرێکیان نووسیویانە یعنی ئینگلیزی قساکەن و ئینشەڵڵا لێم تێگەن سەرەتا بەوە دەست پێکەم بسم الله. Studying in an international school, I was always like, it was a privilege, certainly a privilege. Like, I was always very happy to be there, and I was always told, Yani, it's very big, you're in a very great place. And considering I didn't really pay to be there, so I was there for free. And there was like top-notch education provided in every way. So perfect books, perfect teachers, everything was perfect. The system itself was really strategically carried out. So I was tested on these topics that I studied every single week and every month. And it was really good educationally. So I have like a fine, like stable foundation for if I want to go to college, like I have a stable foundation for that. But then suddenly when I entered high school, like from grade 10 and above, and I started to realize that the school does not provide any spiritual sense of the thing. So there is no spiritual involvement in this education. And for me, as like a Muslim, and in this community, in the Kurdish community, I think this is a very big problem because all of these students, like my friends, there are more than 100 like students in my school, and many of them are not provided any sort of spiritual background. So in international schools, I think this is like a very big problem because usually we do not focus that this spiritual and this religious education is really going to give these students purpose. And so what I'm going to be talking about is that today. It is clear to all of us that international schools provide this broad perspective into life. It's basically gives us this broad vision, and it makes sure that the atmosphere is diverse. Basically, like thinking of all of the students that are there from many different backgrounds. Some of them are not like from outside the country, and the teachers themselves were also from outside the country. And it is a global learning environment, so that's great. But then the problem rises with the spiritual involvement, as I said. When I was studying in this school, I remember that we used to study so much history that when I think about it, it's really not useful at all for me. Like I would study Roman and Greek and Egyptian history, and it wasn't even about just simply the dates. It was about, I was studying their beliefs. I was studying that they had this many gods, and I had to know this. I was going to be tested on it. I was like literally memorizing that Zeus was the king of the Greeks and like the god, and how he married his sister, and they had all these other gods. So that was a really big problem for me at first. Like I didn't understand when my parents would tell me, why is this like this? Why is this curriculum like this? Why don't you go and study about Salah ad-Din Ayyubi and all of these other Kurdish leaders or Islamic leaders? Because Islamic history is incredibly rich. But we never learn about that. Like I think the only time the word Muslim was mentioned in my book was like really towards the end, the last page, when we were talking about the Byzantines, and we studied every single detail in Roman history, in Greek history, in all of these histories of the world. And sure, that's important. It's important to know that, but why don't I need to know my own history? I need to be taught about my own heroes. I need to like take pride in this. But unfortunately in our country, and this is not just about the international school, it's about every single school, like everywhere, in this country especially, we are not told to take pride in our own heroes and our own history. And we have a great history. It's really a shame that we don't know this. And since like the experience with the international school is more prominent here because I was there, so I'm going to talk about that. In the first day, they talked about how we need something to gather around. And for me, that thing was always religion. Like in this first years that I went to this international school, It was challenging because I was like in front of all of these beliefs, all of these, feminism and liberalism, and it all seemed really appealing. I really liked it. Like I was like, okay, this is freedom. This is it. This is what I've been looking for. But then I would come home, and it was like my parents didn't like it at all. They only sent me there because they wanted me to get a good education. And when they started to notice that, oh my God, there are actually beliefs that she's going to adopt here, they didn't like it. They even considered taking me out, but they didn't, thankfully. So what happened was that my parents started noticing this, and they got more strict in everything-wise. So they started putting me in courses in Geshapedan and other parts. I started learning the Quran because apparently they thought that was very useful, which it was. So the thing was that there was always this conflict for me, like internal and external, because all the time I would go to school and all of my teachers, they were usually not that religious. They weren't, because they were Lebanese, they were American, and they would come from all of these countries and all of these backgrounds, and usually they would be very outspoken and eloquent about their ideas, which being a kid, really, you don't understand. You don't understand that this is false, that this is, it's just like a facade. They're just telling you, and it's not actually like that. It just appears to be true, and it's not actually true. So the internal conflict in these like schools, like in the terms of that this spiritual education is not really provided. You're not provided this means of knowing your God, this anchoring presence that is always with you. You're never taught that. Like I get that in this governmental schools, you do have a religious topic. We studied that too. We studied the governmental topics and Sabbath topics. But it's not enough. This tiny book of religion, it's not enough. We're just taught like Arkan al-Iman, Arkan al-Islam. How is that important? Sure, it's important. We all know that. We learned that from a really young age. But I need to know, like, okay, what do I do today? What am I going to do? How do I fix this problem with my community? Like the problems that are arising every single day with this liberalism, feminism, LGBTQIA+, and all of these shubuhat. I need to be given a source, I need to be given resources to fight against this, which really it's not given anywhere, even in the governmental schools, unless you enroll in like organizations like this. It is sad that schools do not realize how great a force religion is. They do not realize like it's a really great cult. Like you can gather so many people around it, because especially in our community, where still these ideas, like Western ideas, are not that common. It's really sad that we don't realize the potential that religious youth has. We do not realize, like in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that many people who did many great things were youth because of the energy they had. We do not realize the energy that we're wasting just because we are believing this facade years that, okay, I'm going to go and be free, I'm going to do whatever I want. It really doesn't make any sense to me because it's so empowering. Religion really is very empowering, and we don't realize it until you go and you see these people. They're doing all of these embarrassing things, let's be honest. It's really embarrassing, and they think it's like, okay, I'm very civilized right now because I'm a man who wears a skirt. That's embarrassing, really. Like I would look at these people who were thinking like this, and it would get entirely embarrassing for me to watch it. So the part where they don't realize what a great potential religion is also a really problem. And towards the end of my thing, I would like to say, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter from which school you studied. It doesn't matter how great this, curriculum was. But if you do not have a means of feeding your soul, just like you feed your brain and your body, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, let's just be honest, because if you do not have a means to anchor you to the community you're in, if you do not have a means of understanding your purpose in life, of your role in this community, you're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter how great your education is, it does not matter. So what matters is that, like in our case, that would be like when God says something, we're like sam'an wa ta'a, and there's a tum'anina, there's a peace in this that many people do not understand. I don't think any other faith in the world understands this. So at the end, I would like to say we need to be careful with these education and things, because statistics show that what students learn at a young age is going to stay with them for the rest of their lives. So that's why it's a really prominent issue. We need to discuss this. We need to work on it. And It is true that young people can cause changes if they want. And the first speaker of the forum, the Turkish guy, Bilgay Duman, he said that why should we wait for the West to set our, the conditions, our reality? We should start and create our own. Thank you for listening. Zor spas danakam.